Alrighty, so here's, I have it up, I have it running, right? So this is the code as we left it beforehand, handling, running the async with the set timeout. So now let's convert it in. So two promises. So what I would look at would be the idea of where I'd place the promise. Okay. So I could wrap all of this right in there, but this part, right, is not part of the asynchronous code. It's synchronous. Okay. So what I would do here is I'd say return, okay, return new promise, right? It's going to be a function, right? It's going to be the two states, resolve and reject, right? Then I'd open. Okay, so now I have, when it gets to this part, this line in the code, then I'm setting up the promise. So what do I want to do is I want to take the set timeout, place it into the promise, right? So that's kind of step one. And now we have to think about what gets, in this case, resolved, right? Now, the reject we don't necessarily have to handle, although I do think using the catch, good idea, right? Simulating it's a little harder. We can see how to do that on the next one a little bit. So think about in this line or in this block, this set timeout, right? Where's the resolve, right? Well, it'd be here, right? So once this set timeout is run, after it's waited, right? Again, 10,000 if you want to do minutes. I did 1,000, so it'd be quick. So all you'd need to do here, and there's a couple ways you could have done this, is you could just do resolve and wrap this whole thing, okay? Now that's one way. So I'm passing the function. So when I hit, sorry, resolve is not spelled correctly. Right? And by the way, always notice that it actually, the editor tries to help you in that case. So now I could just actually pass the string back, but I actually have the function reference, right? The function fn, which is from the call update, or from passing in the update DOM, which is still available to me, which by the way is something else called closure, which we haven't talked about, but it's basically the idea that even though this set timeout is run asynchronously after all the code has run, it still has access to what's passed into the function because it closes it all up. Okay. So I need to figure out maybe something more to cover with closure because we've used it a couple of times. But anyway, for this example, we'll just leave that there. So now we have to figure out, okay, so now we know we're going to return. So what are we returning it to? Well, we're returning it to the function call. Now the function call, when it runs, it's going to first do this, but then when it hits this, it's going to set up that promise, okay? And then it's going to do this. Then, okay, so that's the key word, right? So what we want to do, pass all this into it, wait for the timeout to finish, and then call dot then. Now, we could also do dot catch here. Okay, now we'd have to set up the function for the dot catch. But because we're not doing, and we could do dot finally, totally cool, right? Do those functions as well. I'm not going to for this example. Why am I not going to? Mostly because on something like an API call, which we'll see next, those things would make sense. And actually, even the catch makes sense no matter where because you want to catch an error. But now the question would be, what do I need here, right? And it might make sense, right? Because what's going to happen when it hits resolve, it's going to pass to resolve, right? Which passes back to the dot then this entire, the reference and the string and the H1. Because it might seem like we have to do update DOM here, but we actually don't. Now we could, if we took off this FN here, then we could do it, but we've already passed the reference into here. So let's see if it works. That'd be good, right? So let's see. We have the new code in the dev tools. So I'll put curls. I did some this morning. 1 minute. Now what I'm going to do is right here. I'm going to set, actually, let's not set a breakpoint. Let's just see if it works. Does it error out? Oh, it works. That's awesome. Okay. So we could play around with, right? Does taking out this, right? But we could also do, right? So we could do also run another, right, on error, okay, right? And then we could say console log. We'll be passing in the error code. We don't actually have anything that runs this right now, but we could play with it here, like he showed, to play with that, right? So we can do the template strings. We can do error and then have this here and see if it would run because it's going to get passed in. So then we could do the dot catch. And then on the dot catch, we would run on error. Okay. Once that comes back, we could do finally as well. All right. So that's the solution here. You want to simulate that? Let's simulate the idea here. We could actually do it on the DOM as well. So what I could do is copy this, leave it there, right? I could get rid of, comment this out. I could hit a reject. I could say, okay, this time we're going to hit a reject and we're going to say something bad happened. Okay, there we go. So now let's see if I do the same thing, right? 2, 1. Something bad happened, right? Because in this case, I called the reject and not the resolve. So it's good to understand those things. And again, as we get into the next, the last thing for this item, as we look at the API calls, those things, these resolves and rejects, depending on which API you're using, may kind of get taken care of for you. You just have to handle them with the dot catch. Okay, I hope this helped you out. Let's go back and look what you needed to do here. I just had, again, right? I'm not, actually, I don't have a commit. I should put one here. You may have already gotten working code. You could tell me that on your submission, or if you had to update the code, just give me a commit message. I'll give you one down here. But you probably know is like fixing my code, something like that.